This is Augustus Marinak, writer, producer, and director of the upcoming film Falling Angel, set to hit theaters September 13th, 2018 at the Manchester Cinemas, the Parkade in Manchester, Connecticut. I am here with one of the lead actors, Stephen Thompson. So,
Hey.
Stephen, could you tell us about your experience filming on this film?
Filming for Fallen Angel was pretty fun, actually. My character, Henry, he was kind of mean in the sort, and then kind of went into like a real nice role. So I had a chance to portray different emotions.
Now, when you played him, now this was a particular, some would consider him like an evil character. Do you perceive, what was it like to play an evil character?
It was fun.
Was it hard for you to think to yourself, trying to understand why he does what he does, or did it come easy to you to do that?
It was actually pretty fun and natural.
Good.
But for the most part, it kind of just went smoothly.
Excellent. Yeah.
With the emotions of it all, it was different because first I was like being mean, and then I had to get her warmed up and actually do what I wanted her to do. So it was nice to actually portray that and to actually see it play out.
Were there any scenes that you remember distinctly, like that was a crazy scene to shoot, kind of thing?
Yeah, actually, when we killed the guy.
Oh yeah. You'll find all about that when you see the movie.
Right.
My brother, who plays Logan in Falling Angel, also one of the lead roles. Now, tell us a little bit about Logan.
Oh, he is such an idiot. Actually, when I read the script, I was like, man, I would never do this stuff. This is all stupid. Like, he keeps doing these stupid things and just, later on regrets his decisions. And I had trouble, and I'm like, wait a second. That was the younger me. So I have a feeling like age made a difference with Logan because, when we're young and we think that we know it all, we just make all the wrong choices.
And not to interrupt, but I see Leo has acting experience doing Batman at Six Flags. So he actually got trained to be an actor, paid. He also did a lot of stuff with Fright Fest. He played in theater at this particular venue. The thing about Leo is he understands that when you play a character, you can't see anything bad about the character. You got to see what makes the character the way they are. What do you think Logan's goal was in the movie?
Well, his goal was to get Mary to be in love with him as much as he was in love with her, and he was going to go great lengths to see that happened.
And that's exactly right. You may think that Logan is a weak character, but a weak character is like a butler or like a henchman, like someone just tells him to do what they do and he does it. But Logan fights for what he wants. And characters don't necessarily have to physically fight, but they'll use different things like they could use like sex, or like Logan tries to rationalize with the other characters in order to get them what he wants them to do.
Right, like meeting them at different places, like calling the meeting to be at a place of his interest, of his time, and just manipulating what he wanted to do. So Gus, what kind of visual effects did you use on Fallen Angel?
Now the thing about visual effects is, with this, when I wrote the script, I had a budget in mind, so I wanted to keep it as minimal and simplistic as possible. Now I actually took a screenwriting class local in Simsbury at the Storyteller's Cottage that taught me that if you use 3D animation, it costs, I think, $5,000 a minute. And I tried to contact someone from another country to do 3D animation for me, and he agreed to do it. And he says, well, how much were you thinking about paying me? And I said, for an effect that was about 30 seconds long. I wanted like an effect where you see like a shadow. And I said, how about $200? And he said, that's way too low. And I said, forget it, I can't afford that. That's out of the price range of the budget for the movie. However, there are some nice visual effects that I was able to learn in the editing process. The assistant director would assist me in this particular part with the lighting. And a particular visual effect I like is the part where Mary, one of the protagonists, she's walking through a dark path all by herself, and she's all alone. And you see a beam of light on her, and surrounded by that is a lot of darkness. And that just represents what she's going through in her life. She doesn't know where she's going, and there's all this darkness around her, and she has to figure out where to take her life. Catharia, who plays the mother in the film, but you'll understand when you see it. So, how was your experience filming and acting and everything?
It's fun. I love it. My character is way different between myself in reality and my character because
How so?
she's more like revenge and I'm more like a relaxed person. Don't look for revenge. So it's out of my comfort zone because I'm very goofy and silly, and then it was something more serious, and so it's
The funny thing about your character is you play someone who's dead.
yes.
What was it like to play a dead person?
It's very strange but fun. So
Yeah.
it's a very good experience.
Yeah. Any questions you got for me? Any thoughts on your mind? or-
Yeah. What is it challenge? Sorry. What is challenging to you while making a film?
The biggest challenge to me was, believe it or not, finding actors. That's why I went to the John Casablanca agency in Hartford. I literally called them up and said, do you have actors for me? And then I held auditions, and they sent me a bunch of actors, and I said, oh, thank you, God. Obviously, you're going to get paid for this and everything. Finding actors, then finding times where we're all available. And luckily, all you guys were pretty much available all the time. So if a week ahead of time I'd say, oh, is everyone free Sunday to do this? Is this and this person? One actor could be like, no, I'm not free, but I can be free on this day. But most of the time, all the actors were, yeah, I can do it. I'll be right there. I'll be like a half hour early. And luckily for that, that worked out pretty good.
Who is your favorite director?
My favorite director, I do have more than one, but my favorite director used to be Stanley Kubrick because it was funny because I saw the remake of The Shining first and liked it, but then I saw the original Shining that Stanley Kubrick made, and as I said before, after that I was, I was touched and I felt changed after seeing that. So I started seeing more of his movies. I saw them all. Full Metal Jacket was the next one I saw. And then I saw Clockwork Orange, all his other famous ones. And I think the last one I saw was Spartacus. And then there's another one, Fear and Desire, that's kind of it's not really that great, but he's just, starting out as a filmmaker, basically. My sister introduced me to this other director, David Lynch, and he has a particular style that's also very interesting that I do admire. And I think that horror movies actually take some of his style and used it, like like kind of flashing, weird kind of experimentation things. He's more of like an experimental director. And he did make a horror movie, which I guarantee you won't consider a horror movie, called Eraserhead. And that was actually like the scariest movie I think I've ever seen. But the funny thing is about it is you'll watch it and you'll either laugh or you'll get scared because it's so weird. But those are two directors that I really admire.
Excellent.
During the production of this film, camera, editing, lighting. So how did you get into all that, learning all that stuff?
When I was younger, I asked for a small camera, and my parents just went to Best Buy and were like, here it is. Here's a very small camera. It's like the size of your phone. And then as soon as phones got into it, I was like, I want to film everything. I have so many stories. This is so cool. I don't have to be like a comic, because I love drawing too, but don't have to write all these comics, and I can involve my friends. And Leo, which you met earlier, one of series and Falling Angel. He actually brought me to public access, and they amplified it to the point where you're like, here's the set, here's the equipment, this is what you could do with this software, and really get like a deeper meaning out of your stories than you would just point and shoot like with a phone.
So working with public access was more like a formal way of learning to shoot TV shows and stuff.
Yes.
Now, when shooting an independent film, do you feel it's important to have a more formal way of shooting? Like, you know, you gotta like do this. This person's gotta be here and do that. Or do you think as long as you're doing it and it's a good job, then it's okay? Like, what do you feel about
It's
that?
funny because like Gus is the first person to actually ask me to be his assistant director on a movie. I've never done a movie. I do like short things or documentaries, and I watched a lot of other people talk about how it was like to be on set for like say Flash, the TV series. They said each director has a different character. Some of them are serious and some of them are funny, and like I enjoyed the indie part because it wasn't so we had to satisfy the corporation that we're hired to be part of. Like, can you imagine being that deep?
Actually, something I want to add to that real quick is when I want the audience to come in and watch this movie, I don't want them to come in thinking that they're coming to watch a movie. I want them to come in thinking that they're going to like an art gallery and looking at a painting that someone did. I see this as one big art project that not only I participated in, but you know, Lori was also an artist in it. Steven's an artist. Kakari is an artist. So it's a bunch of artists getting together and producing a big art piece, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it. I don't see it as like, oh, this is a movie, people come to see it and pay tickets, you know.
Yeah, I like our collaboration. It lends some of my ideas and Gus's idea. He was very nice and lets everybody share input, which is cool.
You have a favorite part in this movie?
I do. Actually, a lot of favorite parts, but my favorite part is at the end. It was just the way it came out. It's a scene where someone gets murdered. I don't want to elaborate on that too much because I don't want to give anything away, but when I was shooting it, I was worried that it wasn't going to look good because you have to do a lot of manipulation with the camera and with special effects such as blood. And I was worried it wasn't going to come out good, but I was confident it was going to come out good, and then it turned out it came good. So I was happy about that.
Fallen Angel, what do they represent to you?
Okay, the characters. When I wrote it, I'm thinking of a protagonist, and it's someone who has to reach their goal and learn something as a result of that, and in the main climax, go through a struggle with the antagonist. That's how the story structure works. So you think of a protagonist that carries the message of your movie, so I pretty much thought of someone who wants something, someone trying to keep that away from them, and then there's another protagonist I have. There's two of them, and he struggles with something internally. So he's got like a curse about him. So an antagonist doesn't have to be like something physical. It could be something else. So do you have any questions for me?
I do, Gus. I do. Now, I've known you for a while. We've worked together on some theater. That's how we met each other. And we actually did another short film together when you were in school, which was fun. That was great.
It was for a college film fest.
So, knowing you and knowing that your first love was theater, what inspired you to make a movie?
Well, theater, movies, I was taught, is just another configuration of theater. You know, theater started on the round, around the campfire, you know, with the ancient Greeks and ancient Romans. Then it developed into eventually the thrust, you know, then the proscenium, then the most modern configuration is film. And the good thing about film is it's also about imagery, as theater is more about dialogue, but there is one instance in the film where there's a character by himself, and he stands up, and you see a ghost through these glass doors, and they're both standing in the same position. So it's the symbolism about this particular character in the scene. So film is it's about imagery. That's what I like about it.
Mhm.
Also, another thing about film is if you make a mistake, you could do it over and
That's
try
my
try
favorite too.
yeah try to do it as best as you can. You know,
Excellent.
with theater, if you make a mistake, you can't really fix it. You know, you just gotta keep going with it.
That is true. And did you write Falling Angel?
Yes, I did.
Good job.
Thank you.
For Falling Angel.
Yeah, I'd really like the audience to go in and see the movie, and while they're watching it, be excited for what happens next. And they're not going to know what the movie is about. I mean, they think they're going to know what the movie's about while they're watching it, but at the end, the message is going to hit them like an anvil, and they're going to go, "Whoa!" They're gonna leave like with a
It's a lot of shock and
yeah,
surprise.
yeah. They're gonna leave with a good surprise at the end that will probably sicken them, creep them out, shock them.
Still
And
go.
that's my goal wasn't to scare people, but to give them pursuing acting.
Acting. I don't know necessarily if I'm going to be a mainstream actor, but I do love the business, and it's something I can see myself doing for a very long time. Because it's fun, it doesn't feel like work. I also love theater, so if I can do more of that, I would do that also.
Do you like theater better, or do you like doing film better?
They're very different, but I actually like theater better.
Wow.
And believe it or not, with theater, it's like you're Front Street. So as soon as you mess up, everybody's gonna see it. But with filming, you can always like retake.
It's true.
What is the most important thing you learned from making Falling Angel?
Be careful when you're working with lavalier mics. These particular microphones, they hook onto the person's shirt, and while they're moving, while I'm editing, I could hear it. So when you hook them up, you got to make sure that they move and you don't hear that particular sound. In the future, I'm going to work with boom mics, so we won't have to run into that problem.
Right. And do you remember when you had to call me, ask me to come back to set because I had already left and I still had the microphone on?
I remember that.
Yeah, I had the microphone
That
still
was
hooked
at
up to me.
your
Yeah.
dad's house.
Yep. I'm like, oh my gosh, I do. Ah. Yes, very important. Very
Yeah.
important to not forget that your actors are still wearing microphones as well. Yes.
Did you come up with or format a budget for this film?
Now the funny thing was, I just told myself, don't spend anything over $2,000, and I think I made that happen.
That's great. Did
Yeah.
you go and maybe seek anybody to invest? or anything like
I
that?
didn't seek anybody to invest because I can't guarantee anyone's going to make a profit off of this. Like I read a book where they suggested dentists are a good person to go get the money from to invest in your film. They said for some weird reason a lot of dentists like to do that.
Interesting.
So it's kind of funny because we just saw an independent horror movie, Chad's Dental Nightmare, about a evil dentist. And I was thinking, I wonder if they got dentists to go and help them with their budget. But I didn't want to guarantee anyone. I can't guarantee anyone's going to make a profit off investing in that. So I kind of steered clear of that. I did seek out another filmmaker, and he said, I said, where can I get my equipment from? And he said, what's your budget? And I threw out a number a long time ago. I was like, $20,000. And he says, there's a low budget. He said, just rent all your equipment. I was like, oh. So, yeah. I would have to say that it's a genre that I like to film because it's a challenge. It's a challenge to scare people and to get praise for it. A lot of movies don't. You'll see like a lot of horror movies don't really get like a lot of awards at like the Oscars or something. But some of the horror movies that I really admire are The Shining, The Wicker Man. These were a couple movies that I've been thinking about constantly while I was shooting this movie. Because actually, you know what? When they shot The Wicker Man, Christopher Lee, one of the actors in it, said that they didn't see it as a horror movie. So when someone said, you're shooting this horror movie, he actually kind of said, no, the actors didn't see us. We didn't see this as a horror movie. We saw this as something else. The Wicker Man. At the end of that, I was freaking clutching the couch with sweat pouring down. I was scared at the ending of that. And the same thing with The Shining. After The Shining, after seeing that movie, it was like nothing I've ever seen before. and I felt like a different person after viewing it.
So besides the movie, have you actually had real life horror experience?
Well, there is a scene that I didn't base off of myself, but it's a scene I based off of, or inspired from a real life event where I went to see a psychic. And that wasn't a necessarily good experience, but I took it and made it better for the film to make it more interesting. And because when I went to see a psychic, in real life, I saw another psychic, but the second psychic was good, but the first psychic kind of felt like a scam, kind of. This is actually based off of a nightmare that I had. Now, in the opening of the film, when she wakes up saying, "Oh, I had a bad dream," and you say, "What was it about?" and she says, "I don't remember." You say, "Well, how do you know if it's a bad dream if you don't remember?"
Yeah.
That was based off of a dream that I had where someone was in hell, and they woke up, you know. But in hell, this demon says to her, "This is what's going to happen to you every day in hell." So then at the end of the movie, she wakes up like as if it's going to keep looping around for the rest of her life. However, the dream, it was about me watching a movie about this, but I didn't want to write a movie that was basically serial killer kills teenagers. I wanted something more interesting than that, so I came up with my own story for this film.
The premise or concept of Falling Angel.
One of the things that I want people to understand when they see it, and I actually got this from reading a Stephen King book, but the real monsters aren't actually monsters, they're with the people. Like say you'll see a ghost or a specter in the movie, they actually turn out to be not so evil, and the actual evil person is a human.
How long did it take to make Falling Angel?
We started this in February 2017. That's when we actually sat down and did a table reading, and it just finished editing, and it's going to come out at the Parkgate Cinemas in Manchester, September 13th. Then I want to find other movie theaters to show it at during October, because October is the month of the fall, Halloween. It's actually the time period that the movie takes place in during the fall, because things are decaying and dying.
And we're all dying with anticipation. Do we get to see the film before the premiere?
Nope. You're all going to see the movie at the red carpet event at the premiere, and I'm going to wait near the exit. In case you guys are mad, I'll be able to get out of there.
Do you prefer to direct your own script or have your open direction on another writer's script?
I never thought about someone interpreting my script, but it's certainly something I'm open to doing in the future. Because doing this whole thing myself, it was a lot of work and a lot of money invested into it. And I think it would be easier to have someone do it for you. But I heard the trick is when they do it for you, they're going to be changing things, and you're going to have to agree with it.
Better to direct your own script, or are you open to directing a script by another writer?
Yeah, I'm certainly open to directing a script by another writer, as long as they're comfortable collaborating with me in the story and figuring out what the message is, and if they're open to changes that maybe we can make. I'd certainly be happy to do that. I haven't thought about that, but I do want to do a comedy, and I do want to do, believe it or not, a Christmas movie. So that's to be revealed.